If you haven't seen my previous video on the Bandai Yu-Gi-Oh! Rules, go back and watch that one before watching this one. If you're already familiar with the absurd rules, let's continue. As mentioned in the previous video, Bandai released 3 sets to coincide with Season 0 of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime. I will be only going over the most ridiculous cards between those 3 sets. Now, I don't have any of the physical cards, I'm not quite that extra, and I wouldn't be able to read them anyways. All cards share the same yellow background, so there's no differentiation between monster, spell, trap, or equip cards. And like I said in my previous video, equip cards are their own card type. Most monsters share one thing in common, and all of them will have one of the 13 rules written on them, with a few exceptions. We'll go over that later. There's also lore written into every single monster, almost like the flavor text of today's normal monsters. Without further ado, here are the cards. In my last video, I mentioned there was confusing card typings. There's a lot of them that actually make sense, like Blue Eyes Dragon. It shares the same level, type, attack, and defense as the Season 1 anime. And the card artwork is also very similar to the Season 1 anime as well. But there are some typings where they just overcomplicate it. For example, Dark Magician is a black magic type, Aphrodite is a white magic type, and Dragon Capture Jar is an illusion magic type. I have no idea why they felt the need to specify between black, white, and illusion magic types, but thankfully Konami fixed that one when they acquired the rights by changing it to Spellcaster. Upon further research, that's how it was in the manga, and it was switched over when they produced the Season 1 anime. Speaking of Dragon Capture Jar, it's a monster in this game. This is one of those exceptions that I mentioned earlier, because it doesn't have one of those 13 rules on it. It actually has its own rule on it, like a modern-day effect monster. Basically, it always wins against dragon types. Something a lot of these early anime card games tried to do is they tried to include the main characters into the card game. Bandai attempted to do this by making the main characters into monster cards. I think my favorite one is Dark Yugi, or Yami Yugi, or however you want to look at that. Instead of giving him attack and defense, they gave him an ability and actually named it. It's the same thing for every other character card as well. Yugi's ability is Shadow Game. What does it do? He always wins in battle. You know someone out there was super into this game, and they tried to make Dark Yugi Turbo. And really, how can you blame them? As soon as the card hits the board, you might as well enter Scoop Phase. I always forget that Kaiba had green hair for his first appearance in Season 0. Just, why? For what reason? It's gross. Kaiba's ability is Expert. He always wins in battle against monsters. When he battles a character card, he is always defeated, including Tristan. If he's an expert, he shouldn't be losing to anyone. One of the game mechanics that Konami fixed up was how fusion monsters operated. In both the Bandai and Konami version of the game, you need polymerization and 2 fusion materials to make the fusion monster. In this case, I will use Summon Skull and Red Eyes Black Dragon for Black Skull Dragon. In Konami's version, Black Skull Dragon would be in the extra deck, and you would require polymerization, Red Eyes Black Dragon, and Summon Skull in order to bring him out. However, the extra deck does not exist in the Bandai version of the game. In the Bandai version, you would also have to have Black Skull Dragon in your hand in order to bring him out. Also, there's nothing in the Bandai rules that states what happens to the fusion materials. All that Black Skull Dragon says is, unless if you have Red Eyes Black Dragon, Summon Skull, and Polymerization, you cannot use this card. So according to how the game technically operates, you would control all 3 monsters on the board. Now, fusion summoning in Season 0 works exactly the same as it does in Season 1. So one would assume that the fusion materials go to the graveyard. But nothing really states that. There was one thing I wanted to make an example of in this video, and that's equip cards. Cyber Shield is the weirder one out of the ones that I've seen, so I'll use that one. Its effect is equipment for a monster with a female-like illustration. Attack strength plus 500, defense strength plus 400. There's a lot to unpack there. If you're unfamiliar, Cyber Shield is a favorite combo piece by my Valentine to equip to Harpy Lady. By the looks of it, Bandai is trying to replicate that combo. Just the way they phrased it, though, is odd. There's about 10 cards by the time this card was released that meet that description. And it doesn't say anything like target or select a card, it just says that's meant for a card with female-like illustration. It's clearly meant for Harpy Lady, so just say it's for Harpy Lady. Also, by this card's activation requirements, I can equip it to a character card which isn't supposed to have stats in the first place. Like this card, Melody. Her card effect is basically she wins all battles if the opponent has 5 cards in their hand. So is it just an instant win plus 500? What was also common in this era of anime card games is using too many words to describe what a card does. Something that Konami also did in their version of the game early on. Instead of saying something like it gains 500 attack and 400 defense, it goes through the trouble of describing it as attack strength and defense strength. How attack and defense works was actually one of the more straightforward concepts in this game, with a couple of minor exceptions. So the fact that they were overly specific on how attack and defense change works is kind of odd to me. It's just a really weird example of being very vague of how it works and overly specific on what it does. By the way, Melody was a main character in Season 0, but they decided to cut her out in Season 1. RIP. Another weird one is Kunai with Chain. What it does, activates when your opponent declares an attack. The attacking enemy is captured, and afterwards this card becomes an equipped card that raises attack strength plus 500. Coming at this with modern knowledge of Yu-Gi-Oh!, I think what this card is trying to say is, if your opponent declares an attack, negate that attack. And if you do, take control of that target and equip it with this card. That monster gains 500 attack. That's what my assumption would be, but I feel like this would be a really nightmare with this version of the game. See, once in a while, Konami will print a card that completely breaks the game, and people are calling for it to be banned. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to this masterpiece of a card, Blue Eyes White Dragon's 3-Body Connection. There's 2 versions of this card, one where you need 4 pieces in order to use it, one is just 1 card. So we'll be referring to that one. They both basically do the same thing. So before I go over what this card does, I do have to explain this card's existence. Season 0 produced an OVA, and in this OVA, Kaiba uses a card called Wicked Chain, and where he connects 3 Blue Eyes Red Dragons together, making for a pseudo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. What this card does, when this card and Wicked Chain are simultaneously play, this card can attack 8 times consecutively. First off, you gotta know that the field is not restricted to 5 monsters because direct attacks are not a thing in this game. Secondly, attacking 8 times is overkill, even for this version of the game. Third, there's only 3 cards that can actually beat over this, including itself. If the objective is to get all the cards from both players' decks into the graveyard to end the duel, then why was this card printed? Last card I want to shine on in this video is Elegant Egotist. Now, this is another my card that was favored for a triple Harpy Lady combo. However, in this version of the game, what it does is a specific monster is made to multiplicate. What does that mean? Does that mean I target a monster and I just summon more of it? By the way, destruction cards like Regeki and Darkhold do not exist in this game. You have to destroy them by battle. So, if I use it on Dark Yugi, and Dark Yugi always wins the battle, it's a stalemate. In the combination of the rules and the actual cards, it would appear that Bandai did not beta test this game, and it was rushed production for the release of Season 0. Now, I don't have any evidence to back that up, but with the very little rules, the wonky mechanics, the vague card effects, that's what I'm left to believe. And that's probably why this game didn't do so well. Thank you all so much for watching. For more oddball content like this, subscribe to my channel, and follow me on social media. My name is Brent, and I am Maxed Out Weird, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace!